In 2015, a blacked-out Apple van pulled into an unmarked building in Sunnyvale, California. Inside, a team of engineers, some fresh from Tesla and others from NASA, gathered around a mysterious object under a white sheet. They weren't working on a new iPhone or a MacBook, not a smartwatch either. What lay beneath that sheet was something that could change the world, or at least that was the plan. Apple wasn't just making a car. They were trying to redefine what a car could even be. Fully electric and fully autonomous. No steering wheel, no pedals, a rolling Apple Store on wheels. And yet, despite billions spent, over 5,000 people involved, and nearly a decade of work, the Apple car never saw the light of day. How did the world's richest company fail so badly? What really happened in those secret labs? And why is Apple pretending like it never even tried? To understand how we got here, we need to go back to one man, Steve Jobs. Before he passed, Jobs reportedly flirted with the idea of building a car. He even met with the Volkswagen CEO to discuss what an iCar could look like. But Apple was busy reshaping communication and entertainment. A car would have to wait. And after his death, most assumed the idea died with him. But then in 2014, a secret project codenamed Titan was born inside Apple. The mission: build an electric vehicle that would make Tesla look like a toy. They began hiring talent like crazy, raiding Tesla, Porsche, and even Lamborghini. Apple didn't want to compete in the auto industry. They wanted to upend it, but almost immediately things started going wrong. The first problem? No one at the top could agree on what the Apple car should actually be. Some wanted a luxury EV, others wanted a fully autonomous shuttle. There was even a faction pushing for Apple to skip the car entirely and just sell the software. The project constantly shifted directions. Every few months, engineers were told to scrap everything and start over. One engineer later said it felt like being on a ship with 5 captains, all steering in opposite directions. But the chaos didn't stop there. While Apple was poaching engineers from Tesla, Tesla was watching and waiting. Elon Musk fired back, calling Apple the Tesla graveyard, mocking the company for hiring people who couldn't cut it at his firm. But Apple wasn't done. They allegedly offered some Tesla engineers massive pay bumps and signing bonuses, sparking a Silicon Valley poaching war that turned ugly. Then came the scandal. In 2018, Apple accused one of its own engineers of stealing blueprints, 25 pages of confidential schematics, circuit layouts, and battery designs. He was caught trying to flee to a Chinese EV startup. Federal charges followed, but that incident revealed something terrifying inside Apple. They were bleeding secrets, and competitors were circling, but the real implosion was just beginning. Titan cycled through leader after leader. First Steve Zadesky, then Bob Mansfield, then Doug Field, a former Tesla executive. He later quit and joined Ford. Eventually, Apple handed the project over to Kevin Lynch, the guy who built the Apple Watch. Imagine going from reinventing timekeeping to trying to reinvent the automobile. Morale plummeted, layoffs hit, entire divisions were restructured or disbanded. Some insiders say Apple spent years designing an autonomous car with no steering wheel, only for the new leadership to walk in and say, add a wheel, add pedals, we're starting over. Billions of dollars gone overnight. And just when it seemed like things couldn't get more unstable, Apple went shopping for help. They tried to strike deals with Hyundai, Nissan, and BMW. But here's the twist. Apple didn't just want to partner. They wanted full control, total say over the software, the hardware, and most importantly, the branding. Basically, Apple would design everything. The car maker would just build it and disappear into the fine print. None of them agreed. Hyundai walked away after rumors leaked. Nissan publicly rejected Apple's demands. BMW reportedly laughed them out of the room. Apple, the company that usually dictated the terms, had become the outsider begging for a seat at the table. This desperation only made things worse. Meanwhile, Tesla kept growing. Their Model 3 became one of the best-selling cars in the world. Their charging network expanded. Their full self-driving system dominated headlines. While Apple was arguing about design specifications and partner terms, Tesla was shipping product and winning the market. This created a major identity crisis inside Apple. Their rule had always been simple. Don't enter a market unless you can do it 10 times better than anyone else. But by 2022, even the most optimistic Apple engineers admitted they weren't going to beat Tesla. Not in design, not in tech, not in infrastructure. And then came the money problem. It's estimated Apple spent more than $10 billion on Titan. That includes salaries, prototypes, manufacturing studies, battery R&D, and autonomous testing. One prototype was reportedly shaped like a giant white egg with 4 seats facing each other. No wheel, no dashboard, just voice control and massive touchscreens. It never left the testing site. Apple also acquired multiple smaller startups to help build Titan, Drive.ai for example, which had cutting-edge AI for self-driving cars. They shut it down quietly a few years later. No announcements, no explanations, just silence. Internally, employees began to wonder if the whole thing was doomed. Some engineers were transferred to other divisions. Others left entirely. By 2023, the Apple Car project existed mostly on paper and in scattered code bases. A skeleton team remained, clinging to a vision that had become more fantasy than plan. The final nail came in 2024. Apple, without any press release, began dissolving what remained of Titan. Some engineers were absorbed into Apple's generative AI division. Others were laid off. What remained was a decade-long moonshot that never even left the atmosphere. But here's what's really wild. Despite the project's collapse, Apple learned a lot. Insiders say parts of the autonomous tech developed for Titan are now being used in Apple Maps and internal robotics tools. Even Siri saw improvements from voice control work originally meant for the Apple Car. The pieces still exist. They're just scattered. So why did Apple fail? Why couldn't the company that revolutionized the phone and the computer build a car? Because they broke their own rules. They tried to control everything. They refused to share power. They underestimated how hard it is to build something that not only drives, but also keeps people alive. Unlike phones or laptops, cars aren't just consumer gadgets. They're 4,000-pound machines that operate at 70 miles per hour and can't afford a single bug. And while Apple was busy designing a minimalist future, real drivers just wanted something reliable. Apple forgot that. They also underestimated how different the car business is. A car isn't a product you upgrade every year. It's something most people keep for a long time. It requires dealerships, repair networks, regulatory approvals, and safety testing that makes the iPhone supply chain look like a lemonade stand. Apple refused to admit that they couldn't do it alone. They wanted to be the star of the show-all, and the auto world didn't want to play backup dancer. But perhaps the biggest failure wasn't technical at all. It was cultural. Apple's greatest strength has always been secrecy, closed doors, need-to-know access, compartmentalized teams. But that culture doesn't work when you're building something as massive, collaborative, and regulation-heavy as a car. At some point, teams will probably need to talk. Inside Apple, that openness never came, and without it, the car suffered. So now, all that remains of the Apple Car is a few internal documents, some patents, and the whispered memories of a product that could have been one of the boldest moves in tech history. Maybe one day Apple will try again. Maybe they'll jump back in the race with new tools and a fresh vision. But for now, it's a billion-dollar journey with no destination, and no one left driving. The Apple Car never left the garage.